Hey guys, this is Eliza from Dusk Angel Reads and welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be wrapping up the Tome Topple Readathon.
I don't wanna let you know.
So we're in a little bit of a different location because my tripod broke and like that bit there, I can't screw my camera into it anymore. Tried super gluing and it just fell off, so we're working with it. And yesterday when I was filming and I filmed a heap of videos, I had like a huge pile of books and it was making me really nervous. So today I've got 6 books, so I feel like at least if like my cat bumps a thing, my camera's not gonna die if it falls. So yeah, we're downgraded a little bit. Usually I'm up there, now I'm down here. But it'll work, it'll be fine until I can afford to get another tripod or attempt to fix that one. So yeah, I'm just going to go through everything I read during Tome Topple. You will have already seen some of these things during my TBR Jar readathon wrap up, as TBR Jar was a week within Tome Topple, but there is a couple of things. I think there's 3 books. Yeah, there's 3 books that I read outside of TBR Jar during Tome Topple, if that makes sense. So the first thing I read was 2 books in a series, and that is Never Fade and In the Afterlight by Alexandra Bracken, and these are the last 2 books. Sorry, no, they're not anymore. They're the second and the third book in the Darkest Mind series. Darkest Legacy is coming out, so they're no longer the last 2 books. But yeah, so I've listened to both of these on audiobook and I really enjoyed them. I can't wait to get to the Darkest Legacy, and I've actually just bought the ebooks for the 2 of the novellas. I've already read one. I read In Time, which is between The Darkest Minds and Never Fade. And then there's Sparks Rise, which is between Never Fade and In the Afterlight. And then there's, I don't remember what the last one's called, but it's after In the Afterlight. So I've still got to read Sparks Rise and the last one. But yeah, I got those ones on ebook, so I'm keen to continue and see that a little bit more, as I don't know what those 2 are about at all. But the first one I'm pretty sure was about Zoo, because I vaguely remember a scene, like I remember reading something about Zoo. I won't explain what, but I remember reading it, and then when I listened to the audiobooks that thing didn't happen, so I'm like, where did that come from? And then it clicked that I'd read that novella. So I'm pretty sure that one was about Zoo, and I don't know who these other 2 are about. Yeah, that's the first ones I read during Tome Topple, and I'll tell you page counts. So Never Fade was 507 pages, and there is a bit at the back that is the first 2 chapters in the Afterlight. And then this one has a chapter of Passenger at the back of it. Found it! This one is 535 pages. So they're the first 2 I've read. They were the ones I read before TBR Jar, and then once TBR Jar started, the first book I read was An Amber in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. In case you haven't seen that other video, I didn't love this book as much as I did the first time. I thought the start of it was relatively boring, and I was just like waiting to get into some action because I remembered when the action started. And I was just like, come on, we need to get into this. But yeah, so hopefully I'll enjoy the second one more when I reread it, but the first one I didn't love when I reread it, so. The next book I picked up was Onyx and Ivory by Mindy Arnett, and this one was another audiobook, and it's another one that I didn't love. It was an okay audiobook, it was fine, it's just, it didn't stand out to me compared to other fantasy books, so it didn't like blow my mind or anything. But the world was interesting, the characters were good, so it was a good story, just, yeah, it didn't blow my mind at all, so. The next book I read was The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and another one that I didn't absolutely love. Everyone raves so much about this book, and like, I kind of get it, it was enjoyable, but I didn't like absolutely have like the best time of my life reading it. I don't like the first, I don't know how many pages before we actually get into the main character's story. I thought it was a bit boring and all over the place, and I didn't know what the hell was going on, and then when that guy starts telling his story, then I kind of got into it a little bit. But I also feel like there was world building, but not everything was explained. So hopefully the next one will correct that, but yeah, there was just some things that I'm like, wait, I still don't get it. So yeah, hopefully the next one will be better, but yes, I did listen to the audiobook for The Name of the Wind. Oh, I forgot, An Ember in the Ashes. This copy specifically is not over 500 pages, but there's a foreign copy that is. I'll put on the screen how many pages it is, but yeah, because Sam said that you can use books as long as a copy of it somewhere is over 500 pages, as long as it's not the large print copies. So I did found a copy of An Ember in the Ashes somewhere that had over 500 pages. And then The Name of the Wind has 662 pages, so it's the biggest book I read during Tome Topple. The last book I completed was Crooked Kingdoms by Leigh Bardugo, and I finished this like late last night. I think I had about quarter of an hour left until midnight and I finished it, so I just got finished in time for Tome Topple. But this one I did love. I've read Six of Crows and really enjoyed it, and I think I enjoyed this one even more than Six of Crows. It's just so fun and witty and action-packed, and it's just full of everything that I love in a book. It has awesome world building, as long as you read the other series as well. Let's be real, because this is a companion series to the Grisha trilogy, and when you jump into Six of Crows, if you don't understand the magic system from the Grisha trilogy, then it'll probably be a bit confusing, because they don't actually go into detail about the Grisha and all the powers and the type of stuff. So I'd recommend, if you're gonna read Six of Crows, to at least read the first book in the Grisha trilogy before jumping into Six of Crows, just so you got that little bit of world building and a little bit of explanation about the magical powers and stuff like that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love the world building in this book, and I love the characters. Now, onto the 3 books that I DNF'd during Tome Topple. So the first one was the graphic novel From Hell by Alan Moore. This one I DNF'd at 16 pages because I didn't like it. I didn't like the artwork, and I also didn't like the unnecessary amount of sex scenes. And like, it's one thing to have sex scenes in a book, it's another thing to have them drawn on a page. It was a bit weird. Yeah, so within those 16 pages that I read, there was 3 sexual scenes in those 16 pages. I don't remember what the other one, there's one I don't remember, but one was, there was a couple having sex on the beach or on the sand somewhere, and then one of the guys spot them and they yell at them and call them a dirty cunt and shit. I'm like, okay. And then the other one was when they conceived the child. And I'm like, I don't need to see the sex happening to understand where the child came from. You know what I mean? And then I don't remember what the third one was. But it was just unnecessary sex. Like, it didn't add absolutely anything to the plot at all. So I don't see the point of it whatsoever. The drawings themselves, I didn't like the art that much. There was just a lot in each square, and it was hard to differentiate between people and props and buildings and what the hell was going on, and everyone kind of looked the same. Everything's in black and white, so it was really hard to keep track of characters, and then you're also swapping between time. So one minute they'll look like this because they were like a kid, and then the next minute they're adult, and it's like, wait, who the fuck is who? So it was really confusing, and yeah, 16 pages, I DNF'd it. It just wasn't for me. The next one wasn't legitimately a DNF, it's just that because I'm in a slump, I picked up this book and I was only able to read 11 pages of it when I first picked it up, because then my best mate came and we went for a walk, as we do most afternoons, and I never got back to it, and I decided to put it down because I just didn't think I was going to be able to get to it, as I am in a slump. So, and that one was The Smoke Thieves by Sally Green. The book's over there, I couldn't be bothered turning around and getting it, as there's a back of a chair here and it's hard to get over there. But yeah, so that one I DNF'd, but I'm gonna continue it. It just went straight back on my TBR shelf. 11 pages isn't enough to judge a book by, so it's just back over there. The last one was one that I DNF'd because it was stupid and I hated it, and that was The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. I actually wrote a spoiler, I don't know if it's spoiler free, I wrote a review for it anyway at like 2:30 in the morning because it was bugging me and I couldn't get to sleep. But yeah, if you want to see that review, I will leave it linked down below, but I'll go over some of the main topics of why I didn't like this book. The first one, it's advertised as a fantasy, and in about a third of the book that I read, there was one mention of anything fantasy related, and that was purely to say that the main character doesn't have the abilities that her family is meant to have. So where this fantasy is, I'm not 100% sure, because it basically just felt like a contemporary set in like a different world. there was no fantasy elements for the first like 1/3 of the book, which is around about how much I read. So that's one thing. Okay, next, the plot was boring as shit. Basically nothing happened except for she ran away and got a job. That's all that happened, and then these two guys turn up. And how the book was advertised to me was that there was the girl who ran away from an arranged marriage, which is fine, and then there was the two guys. There was one's an assassin that is meant to kill her, and then the other is the guy that she was meant to be marrying. And you're not meant to know who these people are. Not the case at all. You know who they are at the start. They tell you their names, they talk about them, you get to know them a little bit. And then where the not knowing who they are bit comes in is when she meets them. And she just meets these two guys in the place where she works, and they both give themselves fake names. And because they don't know each other really, they just kind of met outside and came in the bar together. And so they don't know that each other's lying, and they just both gave them fake names. So that's when you don't know who's who anymore. But it was so easy to figure out who was who. Like, obviously I didn't get to the end to find out actually who was who, but I'm fairly certain I'm right, because a person, well, the guy that was in the arranged marriage with the main character is someone of noble standing as well. Otherwise he wouldn't be in an arranged marriage with like the daughter of a whatever he is. So obviously we know who that is. And then the other guy is the assassin guy. He's like a thief, he's like a dreg, like, you know, like he's definitely not of high standing at all. And he's at one point complaining, well, not complaining, but made a comment about how the female main character is of higher standing than he is, kind of. Like, it's hard to explain, but yeah, he makes a comment about her level, you know, like where she is in the royal family, that type of shit. And obviously the guy that she was in an arranged marriage with wouldn't be saying that because he is of a similar standing as she is. So that doesn't make any sense. So it's pretty obvious who is who. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure because I didn't read the end of it to find out because I don't care, but pretty sure it was easy enough to figure out. And then, I didn't know how romance heavy this book was going to be. I'm not a romance reader. I can put up with romance. Like, if there's a good plot, I can keep the romance in the back of my head and not think about it. But my god. Like, she meets these guys, they're sitting there lying their face off to her, and she's just like giving them hard eyes. But it was just like, after she meets them, every thought is about one of them. And it's just, it got so monotonous and so boring, and oh my god. And also, if I'm guessing it's gonna be a love triangle, because one of them seems to like her, but she seems to like the other one, and it's just... Anyway, so that's some of the reasons why I DNF'd The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson, if you want to know my full thoughts, below. But yeah, that is all the books that I read and DNF'd during Tome Topple. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.
Under your spotlight.